Okay, so tell me a little bit about what Partners for Housing is and how it got started.
Sure. So, we're an organization that helps families plan for the future for their loved one with a disability. We help them create independent living arrangements where that are unique to their needs. So, you know, there's not a lot of options in Washington state for housing options for people who are eligible for services through the Developmental Disabilities Administration. The two options that are really offered are available or not are available, you know, when an organization has an empty bedroom, and a lot of families are looking to create solutions in the community that meet their loved one's unique needs and around their loved one, not just sort of filling a vacant bedroom. So I've spent the last 30 years working in housing and services for people who have disabilities. And 17 years of that I spent working in county government. And what families really were asking for was roommate matching. They said if we can find compatible roommates and other compatible families with whom to partner, we can create our own solutions in the communities where our loved ones live, where they work, where they play, that meet their unique needs. And so ultimately, I left Partners for Housing or left the county thinking about starting a company that did that had sort of the match.com for families who are looking for roommates. And I started by with just the idea of creating a roommate matching program. We started by creating a residential assessment, which asks all sorts of things about favorite activities and lifestyle preferences and geographical parameters, and also support needs. And when we started reviewing these assessments, what we realized was that people didn't have all the services that they were entitled to, that there were benefits out there that families weren't accessing because they didn't know how or what or where. And so we tweaked our residential assessment to help families evaluate the benefits that their loved one has and what they can get. And ultimately, now our assessment is really a future planning tool where it helps families get all of those benefits their loved one is eligible for. At the same time, looking at roommate matching, right? What makes a good roommate? So, for the first 5 years, I was doing roommate matching by hand. And ultimately, we created a platform where families could go on, set up a profile for their loved one, and search through and find compatible roommates. They can search by geographical parameters, by gender, by care needs, by interests. They can message other families. They can save favorite profiles, and then so the first thing we do is help families while their loved one is living at home get all the benefits they're eligible for, and we give them real actionable concrete steps that they can take that aren't overwhelming. Like most of these systems are so overwhelming, families can't even figure out how to navigate them. And then while they're working on those things, they can go through and search through our pool, find compatible roommates and compatible families, because it's important that the families also share vision and values, because they're going to work together to support their loved ones. And once they find a group, then we have a process called shared living development, where we help them with all the steps to set up a shared living home, like caregiver agreements, and we help them with household budgets, and we help them with Section 8 and getting food benefits and all of those things.
Mm,
And
mm-hmm.
so far, we've helped families set up about almost 50 shared living homes serving 112 people, primarily in King and Snohomish County. Our roommate matching platform, though, my vision was always a national platform, and we are expanding nationally. So currently we're in Washington, Arizona, New York, Georgia, Connecticut, and we're talking to other states as we speak about bringing our Match.com type program to their state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Um, so if I could just like ask, because I know like housing affordability and the homelessness crisis, is a big issue in Washington State. So like what services do you like provide to people with disabilities who are going through that sort of, you know, stage in their lives? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Housing affordability and homelessness is a huge problem across our nation. We don't work with families and people who are in crisis. We work with families who are planning for the future. And it's really hard to say these two words together in Washington State, especially affordable housing. So, when you say affordable housing, there's a lot of connotations that go around that related to HUD and subsidized housing. What we like to say is we make housing solutions more affordable to families, and we help them by finding roommates, because of course, when you share costs, things are less expensive. We also help a lot with families to get their loved ones on Section 8, which is a great housing subsidy. But so to answer your question, if somebody called me and said, my daughter is homeless and I need to get her into housing, I would refer her to 211 or some housing, emergency housing connections. And, I've been working in the space for a long time, so I can kind of help guide families there. But our process really takes about 3 to 5 years. So we start working with families, um, early on, and we help them step through a process so that they can create a solution that really works specifically to their loved ones, because nobody wants to go live in a vacant bedroom in a house where you don't know anybody. It's somewhere over there, not in their community. So it's a long process, and there are organizations out there that do help people in crisis. We're not one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that
Yeah,
answers your question.
yeah. So like what are you, because that was my next question. Like I was gonna ask like how who are your kind of like stakeholders that you sort of partner with in your efforts of like housing affordability and stuff like that?
Okay, so back to that housing affordability and affordable housing, right? It's all kind of a matter of perspective, because we're not working along the lines of HUD affordable housing, right? So, but we do partner with a lot of organizations. We actually just got a really large grant from the state of Washington, that we're about ready to implement. And you might, if your timing of your story, if it was in January, we'd be talking about this new offering that we have. But we probably won't launch it until January, because we're just finalizing our contract. But we've been funded to provide free residential assessments to almost 7,000 families in Washington State who have a loved one 18 or older living in their family home and who want to begin planning for the future. And in order to get those 7,000 residential assessments out, especially, trying to reach BIPOC and historically marginalized communities, we're partnering with 6 different nonprofits throughout the state to distribute these residential assessments to the people that they serve. And so the residential assessment is the first step. And then once they complete the family completes the assessment, we review and schedule a follow-up consultation. Then we talk with the family about all those things they can do to get ready, get to really understand their vision and values. And then we invite them into our roommate matching pool. So that's what the grant will do. We're partnering with the ARC of King County, the ARC of Snohomish County, the ARC of Whatcom County, the state ARC, an organization called Peace, and an organization in Pierce County called PC2, in order to distribute those almost 7,000 residential assessments. So we're really excited about that.
Cool. That's amazing.
Yep.
My last question that I wanted to ask is, like, how do you guys create like a welcoming environment for people with disabilities? Um, it, yeah. Does that, yeah, if I could,
Yeah.
yeah.
Let me try and see if I'm answering your question. But so we don't own property, we don't have buildings. What we do is we work with families to who are working together to set up that house. So they're going to be renting housing in the private market. They're going to be, finding the caregivers that their loved ones need. We're just leading them through a series of steps to make that possible for them. As far as our organization, of course, our process is a very person-centered process. We're working with the family because, of course, family knows their loved one better than anyone else. We have like a residential assessment is typically completed by a parent or guardian or advocate, but we also have a residential assessment that the loved one themselves can fill out. So, sometimes what we like to do is if maybe mom and dad are divorced, and loved one wants to complete the assessment. So when somebody purchases a residential assessment, we'll give them as many copies as they desire, because we love it when multiple people fill it out. It's good to get a lot of different perspectives. And so sometimes we'll have mom fill one out, dad fill out one, loved one fill out, sometimes coach or aunt or cousin or grandma. We've had all sorts of people fill them out. And then we look at everybody's answers, right, and see where they're aligned and where there's gaps. And when we have our consultation, we meet with everybody and talk about where those gaps are, and try to bring everybody in, because it's important to have a shared vision, right? So it's important for, of course, for the loved one and the families to have a shared vision. If they have a very different vision, maybe mom and dad have a completely different idea than loved one does, it doesn't always make a very good match for our roommate pool. So our roommate matching pool is by invitation only. Most people we do invite in, but if there's not a shared vision on the family, if the loved one has a very different idea of what they want than the parents do, then it's going to be hard to find compatible partners in our pool. So we love it when the loved one participates, and we encourage it. In fact, one of our questions in our assessment is your loved one participating in this discussion? So if the answer is no, we can really talk about the importance of person-centered decision making. And so yeah, we love to have, and then of course, when we're working on a shared living home, when the families have come back to us and said, we want you to help us, then we're involved with everybody, and it's really exciting. It's exciting to go visit the home when everybody's moved in, and yeah. So does that answer your question there?
Yeah, yes, it does, very much so. Okay, I'm going to stop this.